That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about The Lost Bus, the 12th film directed by Paul Greengrass, which premiered at the 2025 Toronto International Film Festival. Apple TV Plus released it theatrically September 19th, 2025. Shortly before it will be available to stream on their service October 3rd, 2025.
Do I know a Paul Greengrass film?
Well, he's probably best known for his 3 Jason Bourne films in that franchise, although he didn't start the franchise. But he's known for a specific kind of shaky handheld cam that shows up in most of his works, even though, you know, he works with a lot of different cinematographers. Green Zone with Matt Damon. News of the World was his last feature in 2020, a COVID release, which we reviewed, but you didn't watch, starring Tom Hanks. He also tends to like films that are kind of ripped from the headlines, because of course he's responsible for Captain Phillips and 22 July, which is one of a couple high-profile films that are reenactments of the 2011 Norway attacks.
What is The Lost Bus about? A bus driver has to navigate a bus carrying children and their teacher to safety through the 2018 Camp Fire, which became the deadliest fire in California history. What is your pull quote?
Rigorously straightforward, The Lost Bus is a real-life reenactment masquerading as a disaster movie, sometimes hobbled by hurried and stale attempts at character building, all essentially consumed by a raging inferno, leaving McConaughey and Ferrera ample time to enhance dramatic tension through empathetic performances.
Mine. The Lost Bus effectively recreates the tension and chaos of disaster while pulling hard on the heartstrings. It's effective for sure.
Yeah.
I was screaming at the screen. I was rooting for people to find safety. So it works in that way, but I think like a lot of disaster films, it sort of feels obligated to have these like main characters that have something else going on, which I always feel is so extraneous. Like, there is a disaster. People are going to die. I don't need to know about your ex-wife and the drama with your mortgage and...
Well, at any given time, we're all kind of living under a compounded weight of all kind of intersecting things going on. But yeah, I think the script, which is, it's based on I believe it was the same year, 2018, publication by Lizzie Johnson. I'd have to double check that, I don't remember now. But it's adapted by Brad Ingelsby, who's written quite a few things we've liked, such as Echo Valley with Julianne Moore this year, Mayor of Easttown, The Way Back with Ben Affleck. But I found essentially the first maybe 15 minutes where we're getting a background into Matthew McConaughey's world, who's playing Kevin McKay, and joined by his own real life son and mother. Like, there's so much going on in his life. Like, I found that so distracting.
Yeah, because it gets introduced, and then for the next hour, 30 minutes, they're not even a whisper. And then at the end, we revisit them. So it felt unnecessary to me. Like, the focus was the disaster and saving the kids on the bus. In my mind, that was the most effective part of the movie. But the story overall is very simple. The 2018 Camp Fire, which is considered the most destructive and deadliest fire in California history. Matthew McConaughey plays a bus driver named Kevin McKay, who's tasked with getting a group of students to shelter, along with their teacher, played by Ferrera.
Mary Ludwig. He was not planning to do that. That was not on his day's agenda, obviously.
No, because he starts his day kind of frazzled because his son is upset with him. They got into a little fight. It's made clear that the son would rather be with the mother. The parents are separated. Then the grandmother, Kevin, Matthew McConaughey's mom, is also at the house, and she's kind of stirring the pot. He's having financial issues. His boss, Ruby,
played by Ashlie Atkinson, who we've seen in many things.
She's kind of head of the bus depot, and she does dispatch. He's sort of asking her for extra work because he needs the money. So he's stressed out, but he's new at the job, and she's telling him, like, let's just get you to do your job properly, and we'll see what the next steps are. So he's stressed out because the fire starts, and there's confusion about what the routes will be. They, of course, don't think it's going to get as bad as it ultimately does. Then he finds out his son is not feeling well and needs medicine. So he's trying to like get to a pharmacy, get home, then get back to the bus depot when the shit goes left and there's a full evacuation. And so Ruby tells him, I need you to go to this school and pick up these kids and take them to shelter.
Well, she's putting out a dispatch, any buses in the area that are empty that can get the kids. And he thinks about it for a second.
Yeah, he's delaying it, hoping someone else will volunteer because he knows he needs to get home, but then he feels responsible and does volunteer. So he goes, and America Ferrera is their teacher. I believe there are 22 students. They get on the bus and things escalate very quickly. And I would say for a straight hour, is this bus driving through the fire? Which, of course, I kept thinking of Shaka Khan's Through the Fire, but which is not used in this movie, which is probably in good taste. But anyway.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, that's the most riveting part. It felt like a horror film.
Well, it does, and I think it does. And it's bolstered, I think, by the fact that this, really happened. And so you are assuming that this busload of kids is going to get out alive at least. But yeah, the tension is built in. Like it's to, I guess, pun intended, a surefire way to keep our investment. Unlike a film that I was actually also thinking of throughout, like Dante's Peak.
Sure.
Which kind of has a similar family dynamic with a character building that just doesn't work. I mean, the fact that even with, I think, some of the questionable screenplay choices or the dialogue choices in the beginning, I think there's really no way around of feeling riveted by watching kind of these people survive.
Well, for sure, the people on the bus, yeah, it's hard not to be emotionally attached to their, well-being. I do think, the film, the climax is there's like a do or die moment because the bus is surrounded by fire. And it's like, initially they had decided to sort of wait it out because they can see there's nowhere to go. But then as the flames engulf the bus, they make a break for it. And it's not a spoiler, like they do make it out to safety. But I think that final 5 to 10 minutes was very effective.
Yeah.
Then, of course, they get to safety. The kids are reunited with their families. Matthew McConaughey's character is the only one who is not greeted by family. And then we flash forward a little bit and see that he's visited the site of his home, which has, of course, been demolished. But then, very conveniently, at the exact moment he's there, his ex-wife, I'm assuming she's his ex-wife.
Yeah, I'm assuming
his
so
baby
as well.
mama, who is in a relationship with someone else, she shows up with his son, and the son greets his dad and hugs him. That all felt very convenient to me because there is no dialogue between the son and the dad between when the film opens and when they hug at the end.
I agree. And again, at the beginning and the end, I don't know, they do detract a bit when I don't think you really needed to do that at all.
No, not at all, because this film did not need to be over 2 hours long. This could have been a tight 90 minutes. Part of the development with Matthew McConaughey's character is that we see that he's not very connected to his son. In fact, in the opening, we really hardly even see the son. He's sitting in his room. We get his profile. He doesn't want to talk to his dad. The dad kind of chews him out because he thinks he was ditching school, when in fact he doesn't feel well. And then we get a scene with Matthew McConaughey at the pharmacy, and there's a lot of stress because he's on a time crunch. And then with that scene, we understand that he doesn't even really know his son. He's not even quite sure how old his son is.
Right.
The person working at the pharmacy asks if he has any allergies, and he's not sure.
Well, and also, all that drama, sounds like he needs Tylenol.
And then ironically just gives him Tylenol. So the actual fire, it's scary because when it first starts to get heavy, we see one firefighter trying to get people to safety, and he's instructing them to basically jump in the water. And it's clear that these people are in trouble, but it's dark.
Yeah, I think that's the creepiest part. It suddenly becomes night.
It's very creepy because we keep cutting back to the command center where the firefighters are trying to figure out what to do. And it's clearly late morning. It's a beautiful day outside. So the contrast between the sequences where we're in the middle of the fire, it's jarring and unnerving.
It's jarring enough as it is, I think, without resorting to some dramatic effects such as it feels like Demon Cam, where there's this roving camera through the fires that's used a couple of times, and I found that really distracting.
I thought it was corny. Because, what are we watching flying through the fire?
Exactly.
Yeah, the fire demon. I don't know. I was also annoyed before things get really bad, Matthew's driving the bus, and his wife keeps calling him and trying to talk to him about...
Linda.
Ma'am, I am driving a school bus, okay? I cannot be on this phone arguing with you. I found that frustrating.
Well, all of that dialogue. I'm supposed to go to Colorado today, and I never go on vacation with blah, blah, blah. And it's like...
Right now? Then we cut to America Ferrera, who I like a lot.
I do too. Yeah.
And she's the school teacher. I have to say, the school she worked in seemed a little raggedy because they seemed really disorganized.
Well,
Because they didn't know the parents' phone numbers, and then they didn't know that they would need a bus to evacuate. Like, they seemed surprised, like, oh, we can't just take them in our cars. America's the one who has to say, like, there aren't enough cars to take all these kids.
Well, there's something about a delay in getting the evacuation notice. Because comms are down, so
sure. I will say, the first time I got emotional watching the film is Ruby, the bus depot lady. At first, she seems a little stern with Matthew McConaughey's character, but she's still like, she was still nice, but you know, she's like, you're new and like, you need to do your job.
Well, he's a little rough around the edges and he's late. You know, he's not making a good impression. He's distracted.
No. But as the situation gets worse and they're told like everyone has to evacuate and things are looking bad, like the fire is approaching the bus depot, Ruby is the last one there. And she's panicking like, I can't get a hold of Matthew McConaughey to tell him that the drop-off point has changed. And if he has a bus full of kids and goes to the wrong spot, they're going to get burned alive. I think that's the first moment, which is, you know, like what, 35, 40 minutes in, where it was like, oh, wow, that's where my mind changed about how I felt about the movie. Because it turned from being kind of corny and standard to like a legit, like, disaster movie.
It changed, I think, how I felt about the emotional core of the film, thanks to the two leads. But we shift many times back to the Cal Fire battalion chief and his right-hand person, played by Yul Vazquez and I believe Kate Wharton. All of that dialogue, it's all the same. It's all one note, all one level, and it did not.
Yeah,
work for me.
I wrote down those scenes were a little crunchy because they're kind of saying the same thing, and
they're trying to show the heightened emotion and the disarray and the chaos that's going on.
Well, I felt like they were acting like they were very focused, and maybe that's why they were so flat. But
it's every scene, and it's her saying in the exact same pattern these updates. It's like, well, she's saying it in a way that's almost chastising him. Like, are you trying to overwhelm this person, or are you trying to get him to make a decision? I was unclear about it. It was more like feeding us dramatic exposition to help outside of the core scenario for the audience.
Speaking of I believe he's the fire chief. He gives a press conference. And at the very end, he says, I have one more thing I want to say. Every year, the fires are getting bigger and bigger. We're being damn fools. That's the truth. I was confused by what the message is.
I was
like they shouldn't stay there,
right? Or
like global warming is causing. I wasn't quite sure.
Or we're not prepared because there's some other stuff about things that weren't in place that would have impeded the fire. But yeah, that's Yul Vazquez, who's a character actor we've seen in many things.
So how do they break up this bus ride through the fire? We get a couple moments where they get stuck in traffic, and like Matthew McConaughey gets out trying to forge a way through. There's a moment when America Ferrera says she needs to get water because like the kids need water. And so that's a very stressful scene. And then the climax of that is they have to stop because they're surrounded by fire, and Matthew McConaughey's character climbs up a hill and sees that like there's no way out.
Right.
So I got pretty emotional with him telling her like, we're just going to have to sit here and hope for the best. And then it gets kind of dark because she even says like, maybe we should let the kids go to sleep. That way, if the fire comes, they won't feel it or know it.
I mean, that felt like a realistic conversation you'd be having. But...
So that was probably the strongest moment for me. But then when the fire does approach and the bus literally is getting too hot to handle, he says, we got to make a break for it. And that was quite thrilling.
Well, like like a line from The People Under the Stairs, sometimes the only way out is in. We
actually see them go to the original drop-off point, which was scary because they get there and they're like, there's no one here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to say, I do think Matthew McConaughey and America Ferrera did a really good job. And, you know, it's hard to see kids scared. And I think those kids did a good job.
They did.
Because we hear their vocals saying, like, I don't want to die.
And then, you know, wondering to have gone through that at that age, the amount of trauma that's going to keep coming back over certain things, I can only imagine.
And then we revisit America and Matthew. Well, America, we really don't get much from her except that she
just doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, she's always stayed in paradise because she thought it was safe. So, of course, the irony that she's about to be burned alive. And then we learn that Matthew hasn't spoken to his own father in 28 years, which adds to his relationship with his own son. Of course, couldn't help but laugh watching Matthew McConaughey drive at the end and screaming, "Jesus, take the wheel." But ultimately, we learned that 85 people died during this incident and that the local power company was found at fault. And so there was a payout of nearly $14 billion.
Oh.
Yeah. And then I'm assuming that Kevin and Mary are based on real people.
I don't know if that's their real names that were utilized, but we do learn a little,
We learned that Kevin is training to be a teacher.
Yeah, and he works in Chico, and
Mary hasn't
left Paradise.
Several trips overseas.
No.
What would you give The Lost Bus?
Which we didn't even mention. It was produced by Jamie Lee Curtis and Jason Blum.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
And I will add that I think at several specific moments you can really see Greengrass's stamp on it. But to me, compared to his other reenactment films, this feels, as I've already said, incredibly straightforward. Really, there's really no diversions. This just is what happened, and we're seeing it. And maybe there's some little exaggerated frills with what are going on with with Kevin McKay. But talking through it, I think, as a visceral experience, it's quite effective. But I do, especially for a filmmaker that's this accomplished, I'm going to give it 2.5.
I think it works well for what it is. I would give it 3 out of 5. Join us on Patreon and listen to our podcast. Bye.